My name is Sienna Ellis. I'm 29 years old. My mom needed surgery. Not cosmetic surgery, but a real emergency. Hospital bills, medications, aftercare, everything. She said, "We just need a little help until the government health insurance starts covering it." So, I opened a credit card. A low limit in my name, carefully managed. But that wasn't the card my sister used. No, that was a gold card. It had a high credit limit, hidden beneath papers I hadn't seen since my college days. I froze when my mother pulled it out of her purse. "I thought it was mine," she said, her voice as dry as withered leaves. "My name's on it," I replied. She blinked. She didn't apologize. She didn't even show a hint of regret. That night I checked the balance. $13,421.88. All of it was registered under luxury brands, resorts, and airlines. Then I checked the IP addresses. Every single purchase was from an Airbnb on Maui Beach. My sister was adding photos, geotags, and cocktail pictures, as if she wanted me to figure it out. But she made one mistake. She thought the card was in my name. It wasn't. It was in my company's name, and she had just committed a fraud of hundreds of thousands of dollars against a registered, insured LLC and a lawyer. The game has begun. The gold card wasn't mine. Not in a personal sense. It belonged to the limited liability company I built from scratch. Ellis Social Strategies, a marketing consultancy with real clients, real liability insurance, and a fraud-protected business account, meaning every penny I spent was now a formal financial crime. I closed the card, filed the report, and then made a call I never imagined I'd make to my firm's lawyer, Elena Hensley. She didn't react. She didn't flinch. "Do you want a civil or criminal case?" she simply asked. "Both," I whispered. She nodded as if I'd ordered oat milk in my coffee. Then she explained the plan to me in detail. First, we notified the card-issuing bank. It was a family-sponsored business fraud, fully documented. Then we extracted every receipt, every transaction history, every geographic charge, and used it to file a claim that would trigger a federal investigation if the amount exceeded $50,000. This happened twice. The next step was chaotic. I had to message my sister. "Me. Hello, I just found out what you did. I hope you enjoyed your piña colada. You'll be getting a call from the fraud unit soon." She responded with 3 laughing emojis. She said, "You wouldn't dare. We're family." There she is. The Shield family uses her as a shield, as magic words that make the theft feel emotional. But I'm not that girl anymore. I took a picture of her text message. I sent it to Elena. She replied, "Excellent. Thanks for giving us the motivation." That night, I received a call from my mother. Her voice was sharp, calm, and didn't sound sick or weak. "You have to get over it," she said. "It's just a card." I closed my eyes. "No, Mother, it was my name." Soon her name would be on the shelf next to mine. The investigation moved quickly. Elena filed the fraud report. By Monday, the bank had frozen all charges. The insurance company opened a formal investigation. By Wednesday, my sister's account was closed. She couldn't even buy juice. That's when the calls started. Blocked numbers, voicemails from people feigning concern. But then came the call that burned me. "Mom again. You're ruining her life," she said angrily. "She's your sister. She's made a mistake." I stared at the ceiling. I said, "Stealing $100,000 is not a mistake, it's a crime. She only did that because she thought you would refuse." I whispered. I said no. But she didn't care. There was a moment of silence. Then came the veiled threat that I never expected. "As you know, if you do this, the family will have to take sides." Thus, it was no longer a matter of right and wrong, but of loyalty. But the word family ceased to mean security a long time ago. I opened the private folder that I kept on my drive, the folder named because when they forget it contained years' worth of screenshots and bank transfers I never got back. Letters where I paid rent, tuition, and bail, all in secret. All because you were responsible. I picked the most damning ones. I sent them to Elena. We attached them to the fraud case. We built a timeline, a pattern, a history. This wasn't a single act. It was the final chapter in a story titled Sienna is used until it breaks. That evening, I posted a single sentence on my company's Instagram account. Sometimes the only way to fix what's broken is to stop letting the people who broke it keep the glue. The comments poured in. That night, someone threw eggs at my car, shattering the windshield. I filed a report. Then I requested security camera footage. The cracks in the windshield spread like rays of light, scattering like reality itself. Shattered, visible, irrevocable. I knew who did it, not directly but through instigation. My sister has always been too beautiful to get her hands dirty herself. She preferred to damage the effect. But I had receipts. And now I have footage too. The camera captured a shadow, a license plate. We sent it to law enforcement. And so, things are no longer quiet. 2 days later, my sister was formally and legally notified of a fraud complaint, backed by the company's legal counsel. She appeared on my doorstep the following morning. She didn't knock, she just stood there with her arms crossed, her sunglasses concealing her embarrassment like a designer piece. She said, "I can't believe you took this to court." I opened the door just a little so she could see my facial expressions. I said, "I didn't do anything. You're the one who accused me of betrayal." She stepped forward. "Do you really want to destroy your sister for money?" That's when I realized it. It was never about money, it was about entitlement. She didn't want money, she wanted access to my efforts, my reputation, my resources. My identity was just a tool to her. I didn't answer her question. I handed her a copy of the summons and said, "You have 10 days to respond, or the case will go to court." Then I closed the door. She screamed at the door, calling me selfish and cruel. But that night, I slept a deep sleep, the kind I hadn't had in years. Because choosing peace doesn't always mean avoiding conflict. Sometimes it means finally preparing to face the war we've pretended doesn't exist. And I had just begun. Her silence after that was deafening. No texts, no threats, just the calm before the storm of paperwork. While she was busy pretending I didn't exist, my lawyer was busy proving I did, and that she had impersonated me for purely financial gain. The bank sent us more data. Time-documented IP addresses, device logs, and a suspicious login attempt from her apartment on the day she had accidentally activated the gold card. Elena smiled when she saw it. "This is the definitive proof." Then came the second blow. The insurance company issued an official response. The claim was approved. Full fraud protection was activated. The fees were refunded. The account was cleared. My business account was back to normal. But the matter wasn't settled anymore. Because once the insurance company pays, it has the right to sue the thief to recover its money. And now they are doing just that. Not just me, also. Not only was she facing a lawsuit from her sister, but she was also facing a billion-dollar insurance claim. Suddenly, she remembered how to beg. I found her email in the middle of the night. Subject: Please. Sienna wrote like a martyr. She said her life was falling apart. She said she was going through a tough time when she took the card. She said her mother was sick and she panicked. Amazing. She didn't look panicky at all while sipping my neckties in Maui. She ended her letter with, "If you drop the case, I'll give you back the money." I swear on everything. I replied with one sentence. "Pay the insurance company. They own the debt now." I received no reply. But 2 hours later, I received another email from my mother. It read, "What kind of girl destroys her family just to prove a point?" I did not answer. What kind of mother allows one of her daughters to steal from the other and calls that loyalty? The matter became public faster than I expected. I hadn't told anyone outside the legal department, but somehow the story leaked. Perhaps it was a bank employee, or maybe it was her guilt. All I knew was that my name was suddenly being whispered around the office. While hers was making headlines. A woman is facing charges of $100,000 fraud after using her sister's business card to book a vacation in Hawaii. The picture wasn't even successful. With her sunglasses on her head and the cocktail glass in her hand, she still looked arrogant. My mother sent another text message. "You've embarrassed this family enough. Haven't you done them enough harm?" She almost burst out laughing. To embarrass the family. I opened a credit card to pay the medical bills, and they exploited it in the worst way. My only crime was speaking the truth out loud. Elena called me that night. Her voice was calmer than usual. She said, "The insurance company is seeking civil damages. Your financial situation is sound. You don't need to come to court unless you want to give your testimony." I reflected on that. I did not want revenge, but rather peace. But peace was no longer silence, but had become legally protected, financially enforced, and emotionally permanent boundaries. I said, "I will testify, not to punish her, but to record the truth, because someone would tell this story differently someday, portraying her as the wronged sister and me as the cruel one. I wanted to document it." She lied, she stole, and she smiled sarcastically as she did it, and yet I forgave her. But I didn't excuse her actions. That night, I poured myself tea in the mug she'd given me last Christmas. The one that said "best sister ever." I threw it in the trash. I didn't bang on it. I didn't cry. I just let it fall quietly, like all things artificial should. And in that silence, I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Freedom. The courtroom was cold. Not just the air, but the energy too. My sister sat at the far end of the room, flanked by her lawyer, feigning modesty. No more sunglasses. No more beach selfies. Just a beige jacket and a carefully chosen frown. She didn't even glance at me once. The judge asked the usual questions. Elena answered most of them, but when the prosecutor asked me if I wanted to speak, I stood up. Not angrily, but clearly. I said, "I am not here for revenge, I am here to reclaim my name." I told the court about the bills I paid, and the card I opened to care for a mother. The moment I saw the Hawaii photos, the laughter in those pictures was louder than any apology ever offered. I concluded my speech with this. She didn't steal money, she stole trust. She took my face, my credit, and wore it as a mask to buy a vacation. Silence fell over the courtroom. When I sat down, I felt no fear because this time I did not swallow the betrayal, but rather spoke it out. The verdict came swiftly. I was ordered to pay damages not to me, but to the insurance company. Her assets will be monitored. Any attempt to open new trust accounts will result in reporting. Legally bound, officially documented, and financially trapped. I walked past her outside the courthouse. She whispered, "Are you happy now?" She stopped. "I'm perfectly healthy now." She scoffed, saying, "Do you think that makes you better than us?" I turned completely around and looked into her eyes. I said, "No, this makes me free from you." Then she left. That night, I closed the last tab on my laptop. Fraud reports, bank statements, insurance claims. I clicked archive. Then I opened a new tab. And I named it.about.do not participate. Healing wasn't achieved through court proceedings, nor through compensation or frozen accounts, but through quiet choices. I blocked her number and deleted my mother's contacts as well, not out of anger, but out of necessity. Healing isn't about opening a door to guests who set your house on fire. The weeks that followed were quiet, even uneventful. No more emergencies. No more fake apologies disguised as birthday invitations. I used the refunded funds to hire a financial advisor. I opened new trading accounts with stricter protocols. I activated alerts for even the smallest fees. I learned that betrayal doesn't always hide. Sometimes it hides behind your family name. One day, I walked past a jewelry store. In its window, I saw a gold bracelet, simple and elegant. My bracelet. Not the one my sister borrowed and never returned. Not the one I saw in her Instagram photos 3 years ago. This bracelet I bought with my card, and my name is engraved on the receipt. As I put it on, I remembered my grandmother's saying, "Someone who loves you shouldn't have to prove it." I used to think that meant I had to earn the love. Now I understand. Love isn't tested by sacrifice. It's revealed when sacrifice isn't necessary. I walked home, a light bracelet illuminating my wrist, my phone silent in my pocket. I stopped at my doorstep. No broken glass. No eggshells, real or emotional. Just space, peace, and a version of myself I hadn't seen in years. Whole, unrepentant, and finally free from the belief that forgiveness means encounter. It doesn't. Sometimes forgiveness means closing the account, not forgetting the debt, but choosing not to let it drain you again.
अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं। ये जो दिन सहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा बेसर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना अब बहुत ही दूर भरता है। अंधेरी दीवारों में खुद को ढूंढता हूँ मैं। ये जो दिन सुहाने थे उन्हीं को सोचता हूँ मैं। तुम्हारे बिन ये मौसम भी बड़ा सर्द लगता है। दिल का हर एक कोना बहुत ही दर्द भरता है। मेरे साए भी मुझसे अब जुदा होने को कहते हैं। तुझे खोने की राहों में ये आंसू बहने लगते हैं। कहाँ जाऊँ कहाँ ढूंढूं मेरा वो साजो सामा तो मेरी हर एक तमन्ना तू। मेरी रूह का मकां तू। लकीरों में नहीं लिखा जो तुमने ख्वाब देखा था। वफा की इस कहानी में फकत एक गम ही लिखा था। सितारों से भी पूछता है पता तेरा कहाँ होगा। मगर खामोश है दुनिया कहाँ मेरा जहाँ होगा। बस एक बार मुड़ के देख ले मेरी बेबसी की सूरत। आज भी तेरी वफा की सख्त जरूरत। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर। साए मेरे तन्हा सफर बस रह गया दर्द का असर, दर्द का असर।